So did you guys know that Brad Pitt was actually in a slasher? It was a 1989 movie called Cutting Class. And I just got the 4K of it from MVD Entertainment. So let's check it out. So yeah, today is the day that Cutting Class just released on 4K from MVD Entertainment, which it did previously get a release somewhere else. I think it was Vinegar Syndrome that did it, but now we got it on 4K, and man, this is a sharp-looking picture for such a wacky, zany slasher, unlike any other slasher that you've ever seen before. Some say this is the worst slasher, and, everybody has their own opinions. This movie was very much in the so bad it's good kind of category because of a lot of different reasons. I think it's kind of charming and funny in a lot of ways. And the weird thing about this one is that it's considered to be a comedy, crime, horror. So it's almost like it doesn't even want to say that it's a slasher, even though technically it is. But man, I just got to tell you all about this one. But yeah, this just came out today, so you can pick it up anywhere you like. I'll have links and everything down below. But we're going to do a review of this first, and then I'll tell you what's inside afterwards. So Cutting Class is a movie that somehow I missed. Now, I have admitted and told you guys many times before in the past, I'm not the biggest slasher fan. But over the course of me doing the podcast for the past 7-8 years and doing this channel for however many years on and off, I have started to watch a lot more slashers, so I kind of know what to expect from them, what I like or dislike from them. Everyone's a little bit different when it comes to slasher, especially if you're one of the big fans of like the top 4, like Freddy, Jason, Michael, any of those types. You're going to have some pretty specific interests in the entire franchise of each of those. But when you have a film that came out that isn't exactly part of the franchise, you have to kind of judge it based on its attempt to try to start something, I guess. Does every slasher need a franchise? No. I'm just saying that there are different opinions for different types of films, and this one is going to be all over the fucking map. So yeah, this was my first time watching it. I've never seen it, and if I did, I don't remember anything about it. Now, this movie obviously has some stars in it, and I'll go over some of them now. We have Donovan Leitch Jr., who was in The Blob, 1988. He's the dude that got melted. We got Jill Schoelen from The Stepfather. She was in that before this movie. Roddy McDowell, Martin Mull, and we obviously have Brad Pitt, who is famously known for his starring role in Hunk as Boy at the Beach. Anyway, the direction of this movie and the person who directed it is actually the guy who wrote Exorcist II: The Heretic, which, is not a very popular film. But they also did Excalibur, which is a very popular film. Now, this movie is also written by Steve Slavkin, who actually went on to do Salute Your Shorts, which was a big kids TV show back in the day. And the story's pretty typical. I mean, it's just a bunch of kids that are going to high school, and suddenly people start dying and they don't know who it is. Is it the janitor? Is it the jock? Is it the girl? Is it the weird guy? Everybody's responsible for the fucking deaths of everyone in the fucking movie. And boy, do they lay that shit on thick, let me tell you. This movie in particular, its writing style is so insane. The dialogue, the things that happen to these characters is very, extremely unrealistic. And sure, you're probably saying to yourself, well, Alex, it's just a movie. Why are you being so critical on something like this? No, this is some of the worst dialogue that you will see in a film. I've seen worse, clearly, for a movie that's kind of in the mainstream a little bit. We're talking early days for all of the actors and actresses in this movie, except obviously Martin Mull and Roddy McDowell, who play some pretty interesting characters in this movie. And yeah, the comedy in this movie is it's not very apparent. And I think that's what might have really messed with people's heads back in the day with this movie, because I went online to IMDb and it's just a treasure trove of different people who are saying it killed slashers. A lot of 3s and 4s. I can definitely see that being accurate for most people. But for me, on the S-Big scale and the terribly good scale, it's much higher. None of it makes any goddamn sense. I mean, yeah, there's a story. They do have a linear plot, and there are people that they try to blame. But the funny part in this movie is that everyone that they try to blame, they push on it really hard. You know, in some movies, some of the characters, they really kind of push at you. But this one really pushes a lot of the characters so over the top. Like, it is so bizarrely over the top. There are a few kills in the movie that you do get to see because this is the unrated version, so it includes both the R cut and the unrated version. Highly recommend seeing the unrated version, which is what I watched on the 4K, but they also have it on the Blu-ray as well. Yeah, I think it actually kind of made the movie a little bit better in some ways. You know, it's not really great kills here, but it does add an element of gore to the film, which I enjoyed. A lot of the cast said that this is a movie that was just like, go for it. Just go for it. And they did. Boy, did they. There is just some really odd, misplaced humor in this movie. A lot of stuff that you shouldn't laugh at, but you do. And I don't know if they just changed the movie to call it a comedy to say, because people were laughing at it anyway. And so they were like, oh, you know, like kind of how Troll 2 was. And they were like, oh, it's a comedy, even though it wasn't trying to be a comedy. And then later on just marked it as a comedy. The ending in particular made me laugh probably the hardest. There's kind of like an obvious nature to it. Like, you know who the killer is, but because they're pushing everybody so hard and their acting is so over the top and so bizarre, and the things that happen to these kids and the way they react and the way that they just kind of brush off things that are really bizarre is just fantastic. So I really like this film. Like, I know that there's people out there that are probably like, fuck this film. This is not a slasher. It destroyed them all. But I like shit like this. This is the kind of stuff that I love to dig into, that I can watch and have a really good time and not really have to dig that deep into a film to enjoy it. Sometimes it's nice to not have to think. Motive-wise, I don't get it, but I don't care because it just is that weird and enjoyable for me. Seeing all these actors that are so big, you know, like Brad Pitt from Hunk. I mean, who would have known that he would go on from Hunk, the biggest movie in the world, to do this? I'll stop. You know, there's better gore films out there that do slashers that I like more than this, but I think this is a fun one. I think it's like a 6.5 on the S-Big scale, so the so bad it's good scales, aka terribly good scale. I think it's enjoyable in that sense. It could be higher for some people. Like, if you have a nostalgia for it, you might like it because you've always liked that factor in the movie. Otherwise, if you're kind of grading it on a very serious scale, you're not going to enjoy this film. You're probably going to hate it, like the people on IMDb. Like, I've seen better so bad it's good films, but this one really is kind of nice to watch. And it looks good, too. Like, actually pretty well shot for the most part. There's some pretty funny kills that are in the film with the unrated version. Made me realize that, oh shit, Eli Roth wasn't the first to do a trampoline scene. There's one in this movie that might rival it in some regards, although I think the new movie might have outdone it in some way, but you'll just have to see what I mean. It is just so funny to watch all of these characters and teachers misbehaving in the most irresponsible, bizarre, outwardly crazy ways, mix this jumbled mess into one weird, so bad it's good film that I have no idea that the Excalibur writer would be doing this kind of film. And, you know, it's nice to have a little surprise to see something as silly and ridiculous as Cutting Class. But, you know, I could be a completely outlier on this one. Maybe it really isn't a bad, maybe it really is that bad, but I enjoyed it. So Let's get into some of the extras in here. I'll show you some B-roll, kind of show you what's inside of this and what I think of the release and some of the extras and stuff. Go over that now. Said this is available now, so if you want to pick it up, the links and everything at any point in time, you can go down below and pick up a copy for yourself. So let's get into it. So yeah, this is the 4K outer shell case, you know. It's everything on the back is kind of the same as everything on the inside. I like the cover on both of these actually, but the inside, there's two covers on this one. This is the one that's on the inside that I really like. I think that one's the best, but this is the one that it showed, and I think this might be the original cover. On the inside, we obviously get the poster. So you have the poster that goes along with it of the slip cover here. The artwork on the disc is a little minimal, I will say. I would like to see if MVD could do a little bit more to the treatment of these. The Blu-ray one has a little bit more art style. It's just kind of like the logo on it, but this one just kind of looks pretty plain Jane, and I feel like it could look a little better with a little sprucing up, but that's just my personal particular taste. Did notice that this movie was in HDR, but it was in an LQ mode, which I've never seen on my player before, and I think it's just how they shot the HDR. It's just a different type of HDR, but I'm letting you know that just for those people who are, you know, into the specifics. Now, the extras on the disc that I'm going to go over with you here, not a brand new 4K restoration. This is from 2018, as I'm seeing here now, from the 35mm original camera negative, and it's presented in obviously 2160 HD in its original 185:1 aspect ratio. We do have the audio, which is an LPCM 2.0 mono. It did have a stereo one in there too, I noticed. They have the optional English subtitles, the original theatrical trailer that is in there. Now, on the Blu-ray disc, where all the extras, the big extras are, you're going to get the restoration scan in 1080p, obviously. They have English and Spanish subtitles on the Blu-ray. There's an interview with Jill Schoelen that's about 20 minutes long, her talking about past and everything like that. We also have Donovan Leitch, who does about a 16-minute interview as well. That's pretty funny. They do the kill comparisons to the unrated and the rated R version, so you can see for yourself what they added, which I thought was really cool. I really like that they did that. I don't know if that's a new feature that somebody did on the previous or this version, but whoever did it, I really like that. Keep that up. Get the R-rated and an edited version of the cutting class, which is 91 minutes. So if you want to watch those versions and that's how you grew up watching it, maybe you can watch it that way, plus the original theatrical trailer. And that's pretty much it. Now, there was no commentaries on this, but you know, it does take me a couple of watches to really get into those sometimes, but it is nice to watch them when you're really into a film because they really dig deep into those kind of things. So if you're really not into that, I still think this is a solid release either way. But yeah, I would love to hear what you think about Cutting Class. I would love to know that I'm not alone on this, and if you hate it, hey, you hate it. I mean, we're all a little different. We all like things for very different reasons. So, but I would love to know if you're going to pick up a copy for yourself. I have all the links down below. MVD, thanks. You guys know me. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for coming by, guys. And as always, long live the boys.